remember back in my Return to Zombie Island rant slash review when I told you guys that there was a second movie that came out that same year to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the series and it was actually good? This is that one that was actually good. What's up? What's happening? What's going on? Welcome back to Anime Station, which is for anything with animation, including a crime-solving canines, group of melody kids. Welcome to the real 50th anniversary movie of this franchise with Scooby-Doo, Curse of the 13th Ghost. Now, for those of you who don't know what this movie is exactly, it is pretty much a movie conclusion of the original 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo cartoon series, where there was Scooby, Scrappy, Red Shirt Shaggy, Daphne in a brand new outfit, and this new character called Flim Flam. I hate Flim Flam. He's such an annoying freaking turd, but it was a really cool premise. They had Vincent Van Gogh, voiced by the legendary Vincent Price, who instructs the gang, short of Fred and Daphne now for whatever reason. Not Fred and Daphne, sorry, Fred and Velma, to hunt down these 13 real ghosts and return them to this chest that Scooby and Shaggy accidentally opened. The show itself was actually pretty decent. Like, it wasn't great, but it was harmless, goofy fun. And I really loved the premise, too, and it felt like it had a slightly more adventure type feel to it. And I feel like that's what really made it stand out, at least to me. There's a lot of people that hate it, but me personally, it's okay, it's fine. I enjoy it. But it's mainly more for the adventure aspects than the actual story. But it was really cool that they got Vincent Van Gogh to be voiced by Vincent Price. Now, obviously, for this big movie sequel, they could not do that, so... Well, because the dude's dead at this point. So they had to get somebody else. He does a pretty decent job. And I feel like bringing back the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, one of Scooby's canceled shows that never got a full conclusion, and bring it back in this movie to give it a full conclusion, was not a bad idea. Especially for the 50th anniversary. It made a lot of sense. It does have its fans, me included, and we all wanted to see an actual conclusion to this big adventure. Well, we finally got that. And it's about as good as the show itself. It is a good movie, absolutely. I can 100% undeniably say that, but it does have some problems. Let's start with the issues first, and then I'll talk about the positives and how it does a decent job wrapping up the whole 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo series. So, my negatives with this movie, for one, is Fred's character. He is uncharacteristically very, very stupid in this movie, and it gets a bit agitating. It's like, once he doesn't have the mystery machine, and once that he has to let Daphne take over as the leader, since she's the one that has more affiliation with the whole 13 Ghost situation, whereas Fred and Velma are completely in the dark about most of this. So then he starts being a cheerleader for her. It's weird, and then there's like a weird jealousy streak. It's stupid. The plot is stupid. That whole freaking side plot is freaking stupid. And Fred should never, ever act that dumb. Like, yes, he's not the brightest bulb in the box, but he definitely is at least competent. Here, he's not even that. He mostly just lets Daphne and Shaggy do most of the work, while he continues to mourn his mystery van. Like, come on, man. Really? Really? And then we have the actual story itself, which, while good, is a little bit confusing, especially considering that they tried to pull the same crap with Return to Zombie Island by saying that the 13th ghost was never actually real and there was only 12 of them. Yeah, that's stupid on a multitude of levels. Like, very, very stupid on a multitude of levels. But in order to actually explain why, we'll go into full spoilers, which I don't want to do, because I do want you guys to see this one. And then my other big problem with the movie is definitely its pacing. It starts out pretty solid in the first act of the movie, and then in the second act, it gets really slow. And then the third act, it just rushes. Like, the hell. The second act doesn't even have that much exposition in it. Most of the exposition dump is in the first act, so you're kind of just spinning your wheels here, doing literally nothing. And then having the third act be as rushed as it is a huge slap in the face, because we wanted to have a full, actual, satisfying conclusion to the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo TV show. We wanted to see the 13th ghost captured, we wanted to see the world put back in order, but instead, well, again, they pulled a Return to Zombie Island, and it's pretty freaking egregious, so. Yeah, the pacing's a problem, and the whole side plot with Fred is stupid. And also, the ending of this movie is terrible. I'm not even going to try to dance around that fact. The ending of this movie is terrible. But that's really all my negatives. Now let's move on to the positives, which are good to some great aspects. Some great aspects I really like is that, one, Daphne gets to be the leader instead of Fred. I hate what they did to his character that caused that, but I love that she gets to come back into the leader role just like she was in 13 Goes to Scooby-Doo. She even gets like her old purple velvet jacket back. She gets that signature poofy hairstyle back. She gets to ride in the red van again. Like, it's really cool, and it's interesting to see these original designs in new, more modern animation. Now, unfortunately, they didn't do Red Shirt Shaggy, which was a huge bummer, but I could honestly let that go as is. And obviously, there was no Scrappy-Doo involved, for whatever reason. Honestly, I'm kind of mixed on it. Like, I feel like if he was here, he would have both been annoying, but he also would have maybe added a bit more context to how this ties in and ends the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo series. Excuse me. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. They do a great job with the throwbacks. The person that got to voice Vincent Van Gogh in the place of the late, great Vincent Price is actually pretty good. Like, he does a good job replicating Vincent's voice, and he still has that goofy, over-the-top ambiance to him. Not to mention he still has the same design as he did in 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, so that helps. And the voice, honestly, is not that jarring. It's a little bit off, sure, but you can't perfectly replicate Vincent Price's voice. Like, that's just impossible. But they got someone that did a great job being very close. And at first, the first time, it kind of fooled me. I was sitting there like, what, did they record some extra lines here in case they ever wanted to do this special and implement it in? No, it's a completely new voice actor that just happens to do a really good job sounding like Vincent Price. So, yeah, kudos to that voice actor, he did a good job. And the voice acting here is still really good. Again, except for Kate Micucci's Velma, who's still a huge pain in my ass. But I've complained about that enough in reviews, so I'm not even going to go on and on about that anymore, because it's just going to keep being a problem until they finally frickin' recast her. So, yeah, the voice acting is still great here, and the animation is decent. Like, it keeps the Mystery Incorporated style and feel and quality animation, absolutely. But unlike something like Abracadabra-Doo or Camp Scare or Legend of the Phantasaur, it doesn't really have that extra detail, that extra ambiance put into it. It feels more like it's incorporating the Mystery Incorporated style and art direction into the animation, but at the same time, it doesn't really match. And the biggest problem for me with that is the colors. The colors in this movie are way too bright. Like, everything is bright and in your face, and it just doesn't really fit with the Mystery Incorporated style. Yes, there were bright and colorful adaptations before, like Scooby-Doo and Batman Brave and the Bold, and Mask of the Blue Falcon, but those were meant to be big and colorful because they were all about something comic book related, and comic books are usually always bright and colorful, so it made sense to make that change. Here, you're taking a show that already had a really dark animation and art style, and now you're bringing bright colors into it, especially when the story's supposed to be somewhat dark and about real monsters. That makes no sense. Like, that makes absolutely no freaking sense. So yeah, the color animation thing is something that really bugs me, but outside of that, the animation's still really good. What else? As I wait for my allergies to leave me alone for 2 minutes. What else was there? Flim Flam. I hated him in the original 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. I thought he was just as annoying, if not even more annoying than Scrappy. But now he's aged up. Now he's about the same, well, a little bit younger than the actual Mr. Ink Gang. And he's actually okay here. Like, I do like the whole thing about him now being the owner of, like, this mystery shop, and him reconciling and reuniting with Daphne, Scooby, and Shaggy was actually a really nice moment. And, of course, Vincent Van Gogh. But at the same time, it felt like he was kind of just thrown in here because he was in the original, and he was not really all that essential to this movie's plot. He was kind of just there for the sake of nostalgia. And the way it plays into the ending is not good. Like, that whole ending sucks. Just a heads up. Excuse me. But, yeah, I think that about covers it, honestly. Oh, and also, one last little nitpick. This made Reluctant Werewolf canon. Whoever came up with that idea needs to be fired. Because, like, why? Why, of all the classic Scooby-Doo TV movies to make canon, you chose the worst one? Why? Anywho. Then the ghost design's okay, and it has decent music, but it's pretty forgettable. Yeah, I'm kind of just decent on this one. It's really good. It is a good movie. Undoubtedly, it's a good movie. And as a 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo fan, this did satisfy for me, but at the same time, I feel like it left us needing more. Like, we need more context. We need a real 13th Ghost. We need a real ending. We need them to stop pussyfooting around the fact that real monsters existed in the best of the Scooby-Doo movies and series. Like, seriously, WB, what is your problem with having real monsters now? Are you allergic to it or something? Like, I don't get it. Like, this is one of the first times that became blatantly obvious and obnoxious, and then you cranked that up to 11 and Return to Zombie Island, so I don't know what the hell you were thinking. So, yeah, I've discussed the pros, I've discussed the cons. Let's go ahead and just get jump there. Can't talk today. Damn. Let's go ahead and just get into my final thoughts. This is a good movie, in my personal opinion, but I can understand why some people don't like it. It has its problems, it has its faults, but I really, really enjoy it. And for that, I'm going to give it a final verdict of a solid... My allergies will leave me alone! Solid final verdict of a 6.5 out of 10. 6.5 out of 10. Because it gave me what I personally wanted, but it also has a lot of issues, so I can't really call it really good, like really entertaining or really enjoyable. This is one that I more recommend just to fans of 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. But just be aware, that ending is going to piss you off. That's your warning. Aside from that, and a bunch of other problems I already listed, it's a pretty good movie. I had a good time with it, and it's a way better 50th anniversary special than that horrible abomination that is Return to Zombie Island. Seriously, that movie can forever rot in the pits of hell. Well, that's it. And since we already reviewed that awful piece of crap, we don't have to talk about it again. So, that's nice. So what do we have next? This one you guys have been waiting for a while, I assume. I did see this movie when it first came out, and I remember really liking it, but I do admit it is overdue for a rewatch, so. Which one do I mean by that? Well, see you in the next review, and I'll tell you all about it.